Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore how mindfulness meets personal and professional transformation. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving into the world of holistic well being for ambitious mid career professionals. Our guest is a leadership coach with over 25 years of corporate experience who's passionate about teaching introverts how to thrive in leadership while making a lasting impact. Now, listeners, she has developed the powerful SOURCE framework, which is a roadmap for resilience, collaboration, and emotional intelligence. So, buckle up, everyone, because this conversation is packed with actionable strategies and inspiring stories. Let's thrive together. So, Ronnie, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you. This is amazing. Thanks so much.
Okay. Ronnie, talking about your SOURCE framework, it sounds fascinating. So, could you give us a snapshot of what it is and how it empowers introverts in leadership roles?
Yeah, sure. The SOURCE framework is powerful mainly because it's so adaptable, but no matter who I adapt the concept to, they can experience growth and um, awarenesses and confidence comes through. So it's just an amazing, let's say, tool for the personal development leading to professional development for my clients. Ultimately, it starts with, okay, getting really honest and getting real clear about yourself and your story of who you are and how you got to be where you are and where you want your story to go next. So that's some of the foundational part of it. Then the other aspects of SOURCE, like each part of the acronym stands for a piece of a piece of the puzzle that all comes together holistically. But basically, my clients are open to new habits, new ways of being, and things that really elevate their day to day and their inner world. So that openness is a part of it. So we explore how to elevate, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, and really tailor actions around that feel really supported and really almost intuitively led once we start working together. The another part of SOURCE is your purpose, right? The you in SOURCE is like upward, look upward beyond just the day-to-day or the material world. Like what's your driving passion or your driving interest that really just maybe gets put on the shelf or maybe gets covered over by where you are in life, maybe as a parent or as a partner or based on, events in your life, but really tapping back into that very powerful inner force, so that's the purpose part. And then the R is rest and revive. We live in a culture where people are, applauded for overworking almost, right? Like, or for, not using all your vacation time as a badge of honor, or all these old stories that really just are not contributing to well-being on all the measures. So resting and reviving, really feeling good about loving yourself in that way is a piece of it. And that can take the form of small daily things. It can take the form of, my gosh, I've always wanted to go on a meditation retreat, or, thinking maybe yoga isn't for me, but now giving that a little more attention, time, and investment. So trying things that really do support living well. And then the C in SOURCE is community, because we are not meant to do these things, this journey alone. There's so much more strength and so much more to offer when we're in community. So really reaching sort of on the horizontal level, who can I serve, who can I impact, and also who can I connect with. So that C is like sort of community and connection. And the E in SOURCE is execute. Like, words are one thing, but taking action is really where the progress and the growth and the happiness, joy, like existing in joy, existing in love, that's where the execution comes into play. So I help clients put plans together, create the support they need, become creative solution thinkers in their life and action it. So that's the source framework in general terms, but for each client, it takes on its own shape, and it's really beautiful.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for explaining this. And it's really, really empowering to,
Yes.
uh, it's really very interesting. So, in your experience coaching mid-career professionals, Ronnie, what are some of the biggest obstacles that introverted leaders face, and how do you help overcome them?
Right. I would say a lot of it is just the expectations that a lot of these leaders face. Perhaps people are expected to be more uh, maybe aggressive and and acting in ways in our career that perhaps don't feel natural to introverts, right? So a lot of introverts start to hear messages. Perhaps they're just messages that they've formed as part of their coping, is to say, maybe I don't belong here, or maybe, maybe I'm not um, enough for where I find myself, and it leads to a whole array of living playing a little more safe than they really would like to, when they know they have more to offer. They have a voice that hasn't been fully developed a lot of times, where they could help others so much more, or share their gifts or their experience in such more powerful ways. So it's helping them to um, come to work situations and also interpersonal, personal situations with much more um, clarity and assertiveness about what they bring. So I feel like that's a huge part of it.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. Also, you have been a trailblazer since your early 20s, juggling leadership, education, and motherhood. So, how those experiences shape your way of coaching, or the coaching philosophy that you follow?
Oh, that's a nice question. Thank you so much. Because I really do live by a philosophy where I want others to understand that they're not alone, and that also self compassion and everything that has brought you to the point you are at this moment can have value if we choose to look at it that way. So that personal choice to say, okay, things have unfolded. I've served in different roles, but who am I truly? And who am I choosing to show up as in every moment? I feel like that's where true living happens, versus feeling like maybe going through the motions, or being a shell of something that sort of fits somebody else's mold. So I think being very true to yourself and your experience. For me, being a mother was literally, has been, my children, I love them. They're all grown now. They're all ages 20 and up. But being a mother and a grandmother informs for me what it looks like. What am I passing on once my time here is past, right? So it really informs, like, what am I leaving behind? And I want it to be better than what I inherited 50 years ago when I started on this planet, right? So it really drives me to persevere and to stay very open to what generations behind me are living with and perhaps inheriting, but having in this moment. So motherhood definitely gives me that sort of perspective, but also it gives me a lot of confidence, because I know how many challenges and um, confidence to speak with other people who are mothers and partners, and like confidence to say, sure, I know it's hard. I can empathize with many of the situations they're facing, and the stress of those seasons of life. So I think it gives me a really almost instant connection point with many of the clients. Like within the first 3 minutes, I've had clients, first 2 minutes, they're like, wow, you know me. They've said that to me. And it's because of the lived experience that I bring. And also, that work life, I call it work life harmony versus work life balance. Like that work life harmony that ambitious people strive to maintain or create. Like I've been there too. I've been there where the work weeks were longer, where I felt like I spent more time with colleagues than I did with my own kids. It felt that way. And so many of the layers of um, creating creating a healthy um, day-to-day schedule and week-to-week schedule, many of those things that I had to navigate myself, I see my clients right there, so it's very I'm very I guess experienced in a lot of these places that my clients find themselves. So we might start with a goal around a promotion or navigating a work time of change, but really we end up looking at the whole picture with clients if that's where they choose to look at it, and they see growth in all areas. You affect one area and perhaps um shoot, I don't know, family relationships, and then it helps them how they show up at work. You have much more energy, you've slept better, all those things. So yeah, that's my approach in a long answer.
No, but it's really, really, very, very inspiring to know that, Ronnie. And for our ambitious listeners, can you help us, with three actionable steps, maybe more than that, they
Mhm.
can take right now to build resilience and emotional intelligence in their leadership journey?
Sure. So resilience as a leader, I would say, really begins with taking time away from the things that you right now might say are the number one important things, right? Like the most pressing things on your schedule, they're not going away. But in order to do your very best and have the most clarity about how you're showing up and where you want to improve as a leader, you need to step away from it. So what I mean by that is schedule in some blank space in your life, right? Might be weekly, might be a little bit each morning or each night, but pausing with great intention during that pause, to me, is crucial, because even if you look back through history, people who made amazing impacts on our world, they didn't go 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not the model, right? The model is they took time away to figure out, who am I being? Where am I going, and where am I taking the people who I lead, through with my presence and my actions, right? So I would say very intentional pauses are one actionable item that everyone can figure out a way to do. It might be journaling, it might be meditation, it might be um, pausing and doing some healing, right? It might be saying, okay, how did I get to this point in my life, and what do I want to sort of um, unravel so that I can show up even more joyfully and more with higher energy going forward. So it could be part of taking on some intentional path of healing. So I would say that's number one, is intentional pause. Um, Another would be create a personal learning plan. So yes, many of the people I talk to have been out of formal education for a decade or two or more, right? So we're finished the formal education, but what are you pouring into yourself that keeps you growing and learning? So I just, love that neuroplasticity is available to all of us at all decades, right? Back when I was in college learning about psychology, the message, and this was amazing, like early 90s, the message was your brain stops growing at a certain age, let's say age 25, and from there, you're only deteriorating, right? And you can't gain new neurons in your brain. Like that was sort of a message that was out in the early 90s, right? That's how we understood the brain, I'm sorry, at that time. But thank thank goodness for the awareness that we now know in science, where yes, you can grow new pathways through your whole life. You can heal from things that you didn't know were possible. So loving this. So make your own personal learning plan is sort of how I name it. Can be books, it can be classes. It can be learn another language, keep those growth patterns happening. People love to go to the gym and work out, but what are you doing for your mind? So and for your brain. So personal learning agenda, personal learning plan is something that I advocate for every client. Um, think of very impactful leaders that are alive today. Some of them say, okay, I read a book a week. You hear people like maybe Bill Gates has a practice of reading a book per week. Look at how his learning plan has impacted all of us, right? So that's another building resilience, because once you're able to adapt and take on new info, you're going to be a much more resilient leader in all aspects of your career, in all aspects of your home personal life too. And what would be a third one? Let's see. Another factor for resilience is look at who is influencing your day-to-day attitude, thinking. So who are you around, right? Are you around people who are challenging you and supporting you, and who inspire you? Like, look at your influences and make changes, because that is impacting us more than we give credit to, right? The weight of who we are around affects our energy. We can be uplifted, or we can be the ones trying to always uplift them. That's a drain, right? When you could actually just be running forward with your plans, or your ideas, or your implementation. So looking at your people that you surround yourself with on the regular, and really being conscious about, what do I want more of in my life, and set a very powerful intention to say, I'm going to surround myself with good people, and people who are doing good in the world, or people who are supportive of who I am and aren't, invalidating me or ignoring me, or sucking me dry, right? So there are some elements of life that are unavoidable at times, but I'm talking about the big picture intention of who you want to um, be around, and really making small daily choices that lead you towards something bigger, greater for yourself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these. And so you coach women and people of color in STEM to create their own opportunities. So, what unique challenges do they face, and how does your coaching address them?
Yes. So I would say one of the hallmarks of being in a STEM career as a woman is that you are finding yourself as a minority in the room almost, all the time, and pretty much for your whole career. So how does one thrive in this challenging situation, right? You're, you're here to, um, you're here as a professional to make your impact, make a living, perhaps provide, for your children. And yet every day you walk into an environment that feels um, perhaps unsupportive, or oftentimes unhealthy, depending on who the leader is that my clients answer to. Dynamics can be, very challenging in teams and across teams. So we do talk a lot of, how do you navigate without being without stopping short of what you want to bring. So it's finding a mentor who really will invest, and who has perhaps blazed a trail, and that can be someone outside of their company. So I do coach clients to not to try to just put their head down and work harder and work more. That's maybe one approach, but by the time I meet people, they already know that's not solving anything. It's kind of leading to stages of burnout often. Um, and or just unfulfillment, right? And they want to get out. So those are some of the paths that people, some of the crossroads people are at when I meet them. But finding a really inspiring mentor, supportive mentor, who helps to create a plan and a path And that sort of thing is huge. And maybe people have more than one, right? More than one mentor, because each person that we tap into has a different strength. One might be really great about climbing the ladder. Another mentor might be really great about um, building teams that are effective and powerful. So another might be really great about how do you balance your career and your work outside of your life outside of work. So maybe there are multiple mentors that people rely on. And we all know the statistics. When you have mentorship, you go farther and faster in your career. I would also say unique to women in STEM is they don't often have
Mhm.
people who they trust closely that they work with day to day. So starting to learn how to create connection within their company, and it might be somebody in a different department, right? So building your network throughout your company at different levels, and doing this in a way that's collaborative. So we explore, how do you build your value in your role and in your company in ways that you had not before now. So it could be, serving in a new way on a project, stepping up, to say, hey, this is a problem, but here's also a solution that I've seen, so being proactive in their role in a positive way, versus feeling like, hey, I'm showing up and I feel frustrated by X, Y, and Z. Okay, that happens, but what are we going to do to sort of bust through that, or to counter that, and strengthen some other skill sets that you can have control over, because there are going to be parts that maybe you don't control, that you have to accept if you're going to stay right there. um, so that, and then building alliances, right? Building alliances within your company. So if you're in a male dominated field, which my clients are, um, how do you build alliances and find those men who are um, able to partner with you, or bounce ideas off, or connect you where you might need to be connected to get solutions. So really being more emotionally intelligent on how you show up and what you bring to every interaction and to every meeting really strengthens your position and your impact in your role. So we work on some of those things. Starts with mindset, and then develops into actual, communication, um, and filling in the gaps of things that they hadn't learned before now.
Hmm. Lovely, lovely. And before we wrap up, Ronnie, so what mindfulness or self care practices do you recommend to leaders who are constantly in high pressure, high stress situations?
Yeah, excellent. There are so many ways to self regulate, and really finding the ones that speak to each person. Some of it is exploration and trying on a few new approaches, a few new habits. For some people, it's get outside. Take that 5 minute walk, get sunshine on your face and fresh air in your lungs. Right, get that reset. And it might be, midday in your workday, even before lunchtime. Maybe you have your most taxing or demanding meetings or conferences first thing. Well, go ahead and take that reset so that you can um, be ready for the day, the last half of the day. Maybe something like that, it would work. And I encourage clients to really try a few methods that help them. But there are protocols based on science that we know definitely help, like sunlight in your eyeball in the morning definitely sets your rhythms up, right? For mood, attention, just all your hormonal functioning. So getting direct sunlight in your eye as close to when you wake up as possible is a very small thing, but huge implications for productivity and health. Sleeping, protect your sleep, right? That's a basic thing, but it is often something that gets squashed, as life takes off and you have busy periods. But protecting your sleep gives you the chance to revive your brain and be ready for the next day's battle, right? Or the next day's whatever the next day holds. So, so some of those practices that are, physical and mental, finding movement is huge. For me, I can think of times where um, something like dance, or music that I don't normally listen to just somehow brings me back into the present and being available and ready and all cylinders firing again. If I feel like maybe I'm hitting a lower cycle, lower energy time of the year or lower energy time of a season, I can sort of revamp my day to day with something positive like a type of dance or a type of music, and just sort of awakening something again. So things like that really can help leaders to feel stronger and show up fully for the day's demands. And the other thing, I can't end without talking about boundaries, right? Boundaries, like how many women, how many mothers, how many, high performing professionals are overburdened because they feel guilty or haven't learned how to, or shy away from creating boundaries. So boundaries are the part of um, of functioning as a well strong human, so that you can set time to step away from your desk, or get to that doctor appointment, or do that thing with your child that really fills you up on the emotional level, like getting there for those important moments. So boundaries really is getting those in place and feeling very much like they're a part of self-love and self-care, is a huge piece of functioning as a high performing leader who's resilient and who's holistically well. So I can't emphasize like making sure that boundaries are set and enforced, and learning how to do that, and just reassessing those until it becomes something that is integral to how my clients operate is a big part.
Lovely, lovely. That is so, so inspiring. And if our listeners do want to connect with you, Ronnie, how they can do that?
On LinkedIn, if you find me under Ronni Landeck Bast, that's a great way to connect. I am there. Love meeting new people and seeing what amazing paths their careers are taking. So please, I'd love to meet you through there. And I love having conversations. I feel like just hearing a voice and talking to someone, and hearing about where they are on their journey, that is where I thrive, and it gives me inspiration. It gives me sort of that reminder of what am I doing here? What is my purpose? And it keeps me learning and growing and rising to the next challenge. So, LinkedIn is easy. I have a website too. It's just ronnielandeck.com. So that's another way to find me, and you can connect with me from there too. So I loved your questions. You really, understand where I operate from and where I want to go with this, serving people through coaching and serving the world in a bigger way. Because when one person starts to live their potential out, it affects all of us, So I love that.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect.
100%.
Great, great. Well, we'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so much, Ronnie, for this empowering conversation. I'm very sure this discussion has definitely resonated with all of our listeners, especially the women out there. And, it will encourage them to take a moment to reflect on how they can incorporate mindfulness and resilience into their own leadership journey. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was amazing.
So, listeners, remember, thriving isn't just about professional success, it's about aligning your goals with your values to make a meaningful impact. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode, and drop us a review, because growth is better when it's shared, right? Until next time, keep living mindfully and leading courageously. I am your host, Sana, signing off.